During a violent storm, Tom, a lighthouse keeper, spotted an unconscious woman on the shore. Wounded and barely breathing, she clung to a strange trident, even in her sleep. Tom ran through the wind and rain, carrying her to the safety of the lighthouse, unaware that his life was about to change forever. When she woke up, fear crossed her eyes. She raised her trident, ready to attack, but Tom didn't flinch. He calmly reassured her.
You weren't breathing.
Exhausted and confused, she quickly lost consciousness again, leaving Tom without answers. Tom cared for her, healed her wounds, and prepared food. When she woke up again, disoriented and hungry, she ate his pet fish raw. Unfazed, Tom simply offered her tea, earning her first genuine smile. Over time, she revealed the truth. Her name was Atlanna, Queen of Atlantis, and she was fleeing an arranged marriage. Against all odds, they fell deeply in love and soon had a son, Arthur. But peace would not last. Their happiness was shattered when Atlantean soldiers stormed the lighthouse to take her away.
You are ordered to return to Atlantis.
Tom hid the baby while Atlanna fought fiercely, defeating them. However, she knew they would never stop hunting her. She had to return to protect those she loved. Before leaving, she made a promise.
I will return to you. One day, we'll be together again.
And just like that, she was gone. Tom was left alone, raising Arthur without knowing if he would ever see her again. Arthur grew up being different. At school, children mocked him and called him a freak, until one day at the aquarium, everything changed. A shark aggressively struck the glass, appearing to defend Arthur. However, Arthur remained calm, somehow connected to the creature. That was the moment everyone understood that Arthur was much more than just different. He belonged to another world. Years later, in the deep ocean, pirates hijacked a submarine, relentless and deadly, until something hit them with force. The lights flickered and panic spread. Then, a powerful figure climbed aboard. Arthur had returned, but now he was Aquaman. Arthur storms the ship, quickly defeating the pirates and freeing the captured crew. Manta, enraged by the intrusion, attacks him but is overcome. When Jesse tries to shoot Arthur with a powerful weapon, it only stuns him briefly. Arthur recovers quickly, wounds Jesse, and leaves the pirate stranded inside the damaged submarine. As Arthur prepares to leave, Jesse fires again, but the projectile bounces and damages the submarine, causing water to flood the interior. The chaos dislodges a massive gas tank that crushes Jesse's leg. Manta desperately tries to free his father, but lacks the strength to lift the tank. Desperate, he pleads for Arthur's help, but Arthur coldly refuses, stating that Jesse's actions have caused countless deaths, and he must face the consequences. With his last breath, Jesse looked into his son's eyes and gave him one last order.
You need to live so you can kill that son of a bitch!
He activated a grenade, sacrificing himself while the submarine exploded. Manta survived, but the man he once was died along with his father. In that moment, justice no longer mattered. All he wanted was revenge. Later, Arthur returns to the shore where he reunites with his father, Tom. Tom, relieved to see his son, suggests they go have breakfast together. They head to a local bar just like old times. On the television, news anchors report on the rescue of the hijacked submarine. Arthur plays it down, but Tom looks at him with pride. For Arthur, he was just doing what was right. But for the world, he was becoming something more. Arthur grows restless in his seat. The word Atlantis makes him tense. He tells Tom to drop the subject, saying he owes nothing to that place because it took his mother away. Tom tries to reason with him, but Arthur explodes. Tom puts a hand on his son's shoulder and tells him he cannot carry that guilt forever. But for Arthur, that guilt never went away, not even for a second. Their conversation is interrupted when a group of customers at the bar recognizes Arthur as Aquaman. To his surprise, they approach him enthusiastically to ask for photos, treating him like a celebrity. Meanwhile, in the depths of Atlantis, King Orm meets with his advisor Vulko and leads a delegation to the kingdom of Zebel. Orm seeks an audience with King Nereus to discuss an imminent threat to their world. In the meeting, Orm argues that humans are a growing danger, bringing submarines dangerously close to Atlantis. He proposes a preemptive strike on the surface to eliminate the threat. Nereus, however, opposes the idea, believing that humans will eventually destroy themselves without intervention. Orm insists that humanity's aggression will inevitably target Atlantis, but Nereus is not convinced. Nereus reminds Orm that any invasion requires the backing of 4 Atlantean kingdoms. Orm claims to have plans to gather the necessary support, but he needs Nereus's help to consolidate the alliances. Sensing Orm's ambition, Nereus accuses him of using the human threat as a ploy to claim the coveted title of Ocean Master. Orm denies caring about the title, but Nereus doubts his sincerity. Nereus also mentions rumors about a half-breed, an heir with a potential claim to the throne. Orm dismisses the rumor, revealing his disdain for Arthur, whom he blames for their mother's death. They both share the same mother, Atlanna, but Orm's hatred for his half-brother is deep, rooted in resentment and pain. Their meeting is abruptly interrupted by a sudden attack from a submarine, which kills some of Orm and Nereus's men. Furious, Orm counterattacks, destroying the submarine single-handedly. The violent incident convinces Nereus to reconsider Orm's warnings. He agrees to form an alliance, setting the stage for a united Atlantean front against humanity. Orm declares that it is time to send a message to the surface world. Back at the bar, Tom has had a bit too much to drink. Arthur, amused but exasperated, helps his father into the truck. As they drive home, Arthur reflects on his mixed feelings toward Atlantis and the weight of the destiny that everyone seems to believe he must fulfill. The road ahead seems uncertain, with personal and global battles looming. As Arthur prepares to leave the bar with Tom, he meets a woman named Mira. She urgently tells him that he must follow her to Atlantis. Arthur, however, is indifferent, repeating what he had already told Vulko, that he has no interest in helping the people who killed his mother. Mira responds with dire news. Orm plans to wage war against the surface world. To stop him, they need Arthur's help. Mira explains that the only way to unite the surface world and the undersea world is for Arthur to claim his rightful place as king of Atlantis. Arthur laughs at the idea, pointing out that Orm would never give up the throne voluntarily, and that as someone who has never been to Atlantis, he doubts anyone would recognize him as their leader. Mira insists that Arthur can change this by finding the lost trident of King Atlanna, an immensely powerful weapon that would grant him the legitimacy and respect needed to challenge Orm. She reveals that Vulko has discovered clues to the trident's location and urges him to join the search. Despite her persistence, Arthur refuses and leaves her behind as he drives away in his truck. Meanwhile, Orm meets with Manta, revealing that the latter organized the submarine attack under Orm's orders. Orm praises Manta for his role in creating the illusion of a surface threat, which helped draw King Nereus to his side. However, when Manta demands a chance to avenge his father by killing Arthur, Orm dismisses the request, ending their deal and leaving. As Arthur drives Tom home, he notices birds fleeing the coast and sees a massive tsunami heading toward them. He slams on the gas, but the wave quickly catches his truck. Before disaster strikes, Mira appears, using her hydrokinesis to create an air bubble around them. Arthur struggles to pull Tom from the wrecked vehicle, but his father has passed out. Mira intervenes to help, using her powers to revive Tom. As Arthur and Mira look upon the devastation caused by the tsunami, she reveals it is Orm's work, a warning to the surface world. She warns that the worst is yet to come, as Orm's war plans are already in motion. This time, Arthur reluctantly agrees to follow her to Atlantis. Upon arriving in Atlantis for the first time, Arthur is struck by the grandeur of the underwater city. Mira takes him to Vulko, who is glad to finally see Arthur in Atlantis after years of trying. Arthur wastes no time and demands answers about the attack on the surface. Vulko explains that the tsunami is just the beginning, and that Orm is preparing for a full-scale war. Mira asks Vulko what triggered Orm's aggression. Vulko recounts the alleged ambush by the surface submarine during the meeting between Orm and Nereus, which pushed the latter to form the alliance. Arthur is skeptical and states that no one on the surface even believes Atlantis exists. Vulko, however, insists that the attack was real and has given Orm the advantage he needed to unite the kingdoms of Atlantis. Vulko warns that if Orm secures the support of 2 more Atlantean nations, he will gain control of the ocean's largest army and claim the title of Ocean Master. The only way to stop him, Vulko says, is for Arthur to challenge Orm and take the throne. Arthur, still reluctant, argues that he has no desire to be king. Vulko urges him to reconsider, stating that the people will only accept Arthur's rule if he recovers the legendary trident of King Atlan. Without it, Arthur has no chance of bringing Atlantis to his side. Though conflicted, Arthur begins to realize the weight of a responsibility he cannot ignore. Arthur mentions that he already has his mother's trident, but Vulko explains that the one they seek is no ordinary weapon. It was forged by the greatest weapon masters for King Atlan, the first ruler of Atlantis. As Vulko recounts the legend, he describes how Atlantis once flourished as the most advanced civilization on the surface before their ambition led to their doom. A catastrophic experiment sank the kingdom to the bottom of the ocean, forcing its people to adapt to underwater life. Divided by their losses, the Atlanteans fragmented into separate kingdoms, and a heartbroken Atlan disappeared into exile with the trident, never to be seen again. Vulko presents an ancient recorder, discovered by archaeologists, believed to contain Atlan's final message and the location of the trident. Arthur asks why they can't simply listen to it, but Vulko reveals that the device is too old to function without specialized equipment, found only in the kingdom of the deserters. Before Arthur can take the recorder, Orm's soldiers ambush the meeting site and blow it up. Arthur fights off the attackers while Mera and Vulko retreat to avoid being linked to him. Despite his efforts, Arthur is overwhelmed and captured, chained and brought before Orm. Arthur sees his half-brother's disdain and conflicted emotions. Orm, surprised by Arthur's presence in Atlantis, admits he is unsure what punishment is fitting for someone he has always despised. When Orm asks if Arthur has come to challenge him for the throne, Arthur declares he is ready to end the war Orm is starting. Orm, pleased, accepts the challenge despite protests from Mera and Vulko. Mera points out that Arthur is not prepared for underwater combat, but Orm dismisses her concerns. Confident in his ability to give Arthur a humiliating lesson in front of Atlantis, Orm sets the rules. If Arthur wins, Orm will step down from the throne, but if he loses, Arthur will die. As Arthur prepares for the duel, Vulko visits him and scolds him for falling into Orm's trap. Arthur, confident, insists he can win, but Vulko warns him that fighting underwater is very different from fighting on land. This revelation devastated Arthur, who blamed himself for Atlanna's fate. Back in the present, the bitterness of that memory fuels his determination to face Orm. Meanwhile, Orm hands Mera a ceremonial bracelet, speaking confidently about his imminent victory. Mera challenges him by asking if Atlanna would have wanted her sons to fight each other. Orm deflects the question with unwavering resolution. He believes defeating Arthur will solidify his rule and ensure Atlantis remains strong against the surface world. Mera, however, seems uneasy, torn between her loyalty to Atlantis and her growing realization that Arthur might be the leader they truly need. The stage is set for a confrontation that could determine the fate of both worlds. Mera questions Orm by pointing out that his actions defy Atlanna's beliefs. Orm dismisses this, stating that their mother was weak and warning Mera not to imitate her. Their conversation is interrupted when Vulko arrives with Arthur, leading Orm to order his advisor to escort Mera, his fiancée, to the royal box. Arthur is stunned to learn of Mera's engagement to Orm but keeps his thoughts to himself. Before the fight begins, Arthur reflects on how he once longed to meet his brother to assure him he wasn't alone. Orm, however, expresses reluctance to kill Arthur, offering him one last chance to return to the surface and wait for the inevitable attack from Atlantis. Arthur refuses, leading them both to the battlefield, where a crowd of Atlantean citizens gathers to witness the duel. In the royal box, Mera confronts her father, King Nereus, about his support for the war. Nereus defends his position by blaming surface dwellers for starting the hostilities, and insists it is time to put them in their place. Meanwhile, the duel begins, and though Arthur struggles at first, he manages to land some blows on Orm. The tide soon turns, and Orm gains the upper hand. Just as he is about to deliver a decisive blow, Mera intervenes by trapping Orm in an air bubble. Mera arrives with her ship and urges Arthur to escape with her. They flee Atlantis, but Orm and his soldiers quickly pursue them. Despite Orm's men destroying their ship, Arthur and Mera evade capture by hiding inside the mouth of a massive sea creature that Arthur communicates with to ensure their safety. Believing them dead, Orm and his forces retreat. Once safe, Mera tells Arthur they must travel to the Sahara Desert to play Atlan's recording in the kingdom of the deserters. On the plane ride, Mera expresses remorse for her actions, feeling she has betrayed her family and her people. Arthur tries to comfort her by joking that, at least, she won't have to marry Orm. Mera admits the guilt still weighs heavily, but Arthur assures her she did the right thing. Their tracker soon locates the kingdom of the deserters, and they skydive from the plane. Meanwhile, Orm's men discover that Mera's bracelet is still transmitting a signal from the desert. Although Nereus demands that his daughter be returned unharmed, Orm reluctantly agrees to spare her life to preserve their alliance. Elsewhere, Orm meets with Manta, giving him a powerful weapon and tasking him with hunting down Arthur and Mera. Orm promises a substantial reward for success, but Manta only cares about avenging his father. Orm also sends his elite soldiers to assist Manta in the mission. While Mera and Arthur search for the entrance to the kingdom, their progress is slow. Frustrated, Arthur complains about the harshness of the desert, calling it a wasteland. Mera retorts that he should feel at home, since it is part of the surface world. Arthur jokes that there are much better places than the desert, offering a rare moment of levity. They push forward, determined to uncover Atlan's message and secure the trident that could save Atlantis and the surface from Orm's destructive ambitions. Unknown to them, Manta and Orm's soldiers are closing in, setting the stage for an explosive confrontation. Arthur tells Mera she shouldn't judge the surface world without fully exploring it, but Mera counters by saying he never tried to understand Atlantis before hating it. Their debate is interrupted when they finally discover the entrance to the kingdom of the deserters. Inside the main temple, they find evidence of King Atlan's trident and the device needed to play the recording. Upon activating it, a hologram of King Atlan emerges, describing the unmatched power of the trident and its ability to unite the kingdoms of land and sea, but only in the hands of a true heir. Atlan reveals that the path to the trident lies beyond the hidden sea, accessible via a map hidden in a bottle that can only be interpreted by a true king. As the hologram fades, Mera destroys the recorder to ensure no one else can use it. Before they leave, a bottle emerges from a hidden compartment in the temple floor. Inside is a map pointing them toward a location in Sicily. Upon arriving, Mera enjoys the lively streets and vibrant beauty of the city, but they quickly focus on their mission. At the marked spot, Arthur deduces that the bottle must be placed in the hand of a specific statue. Doing so reveals their next destination in the middle of the ocean. Before they can depart, Manta ambushes them, wounding Arthur with a surprise attack. While Manta pursues Arthur, Mera faces Orm's soldiers, who announce they are also there to capture her for treason. Mera flees, planning her next move, while Arthur and Manta engage in an intense battle. Manta's advanced suit and weapons give him the edge, but Arthur fights with determination. During the fight, Arthur demands to know how they were found. Manta reveals that Mera's bracelet contains a tracker. Meanwhile, Mera overcomes the soldiers, killing them one by one. Finally, Arthur defeats Manta, who crashes against sharp rocks before falling into the sea. Exhausted and wounded, Arthur collapses as Mera rushes to his side. Arthur warns her about the tracking bracelet, and she crushes it just before he loses consciousness. Elsewhere in Atlantis, Orm approaches the kingdom of the fishermen to recruit their army. King Riku refuses, denouncing the conflict as reckless. Furious, Orm kills Riku and forces his heir to prepare the army, with only one kingdom left before Orm can lead an all-out assault on the surface. Arthur wakes up aboard a small boat. He sees Mera playing a flute and learns she stole the boat to follow the plotted route. Their destination is the Kingdom of the Trench, the place where Atlanna was allegedly executed. Mera warns that the Trench is now a kingdom of death filled with unknown horrors. Although the danger is great, Arthur braces himself, determined to uncover the truth about his mother's fate and recover the trident. Arthur, shaken by the dangers ahead, suggests turning back to warn the surface dwellers of the impending war, doubting his ability to be king. Mera confronts him, expressing her unwavering faith in him. As they approach their destination, a horde of monstrous creatures known as the Trench ambushes them. Arthur and Mera struggle to repel the relentless attackers. Desperate, they use flares to drive them away and dive into the water in search of the portal that leads to the hidden sea. When they finally locate it, Mera warns that they cannot pass through together, but Arthur refuses to leave her behind. Taking her hand, he tries to cross, but the portal's energy violently separates them. Mera loses consciousness and drifts away before being rescued by an unknown figure. Mera wakes up on the shore of the hidden sea, where her savior removes her helmet to reveal her identity. Atlanna, Arthur's mother. Stunned, Mera watches as Arthur arrives, equally shocked to see his mother alive. Overcome with emotion, Arthur embraces Atlanna and asks how she survived. She explains that although Orvax condemned her to death in the trench, she fought for her life and managed to escape. Arthur blames himself, but Atlanna assures him it was not his fault and that her actions were necessary to protect him and Tom. When she asks about Tom, Arthur tells her he still waits every morning on the dock. Atlanna is moved, but explains she could not return because the portal is one way. The trident is the only means to leave, but it is guarded by the Carathan, a powerful and ancient creature. Atlanna reveals that only the true heir can claim the trident. Arthur ventures behind a waterfall and finds the skeleton of King Atlan holding the weapon. As he attempts to take it, the Carathan emerges, declaring Arthur unworthy for being a half-breed. On the brink of death, Arthur asks the creature to stop, admitting he knows he is not worthy, but needs the trident to save his people. The Carathan, surprised that Arthur can speak to it, something no one had done since Atlan, allows him to prove himself. Arthur succeeds, and upon wielding the trident, its power flows through him, marking him as the one true king of Atlantis. Arthur returns triumphant before Mera and Atlanna. Meanwhile, Orm discovers Vulko's betrayal and orders his arrest so he can witness the attack on the surface. Orm leads the armies of Zeeble and the fishermen toward the kingdom of the brine, demanding their surrender. Before he can act, the massive Carathan appears, silencing everyone. Riding atop the creature is Arthur, wielding Atlan's trident. The sight leaves the armies in awe. Using the power of the trident, Arthur summons sea creatures to defeat Orm's forces. Mera urges Arthur to confront Orm directly to avoid further casualties. She approaches Nereus and shows him the trident as proof. Nereus, convinced, orders his soldiers to retreat and proclaims Arthur as their king. Arthur draws Orm to the surface for their final duel. Orm declares he will never accept Arthur as king, and they both engage in a fierce struggle. Despite Orm's strength, Arthur's mastery of the trident allows him to overcome him. With Orm unarmed, Arthur demands he yield the throne. Orm refuses and urges Arthur to kill him to end the fight, but Arthur declines, saying, "I am not like you." In that moment, Atlanna appears, stopping the fight. Orm is stunned to see his mother alive, and she embraces him, calling for an end to the enmity. She explains that Orvax's teachings were wrong and that land and sea must coexist. Orm softens, and Vulko arrives to take him into custody. Mera publicly announces Arthur as the new king of Atlantis, and the armies celebrate. The next morning, Tom walks toward the docks as he has done every day. To his amazement, he finds Atlanna waiting for him. Overwhelmed with joy, they embrace as she assures him she has finally come home. Together, they look out at the ocean, united as a family once more, while Arthur takes his rightful place,